Have you lost your job? Have you lost a loved one? Are you exhausted caring for your parents, for your kids? Well, you can find immediate relief when you read Sheila Mack's new #1 bestseller, Bootstraps and Bra Straps. It contains the Boots formula to move from rock bottom back into action in any situation, especially right now. If life has knocked you down, pick yourself up with Bootstraps and Bra Straps. Get your copy at www.SheilaMack.com today.
Are you ready for a reboot? Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. History reminds us those hit hardest often become the change makers. This year, we've all hit crazy economic, social, and emotional rock bottoms. We all get knocked down. Something hits globally, locally, personally. It affects our health, finances, our relationships. We have to recreate a business or career. Each show, Sheila and her special guest will be sharing their reboot stories, guiding you with real solutions to upgrade and up-level emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. Here on NBC's KCAA Radio, Mondays at 1 and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Pacific Time. If you're ready to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and bra straps, enjoy a listen. Here's Sheila.
Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mack, and today we have special guest Karen Tibbals. She is the author of Persuasion, Persuade, Don't Preach. It's Persuade, Don't Preach. And she has a degree in religion and marketing. She's been working in marketing for many years and has now switched over. She is a high performance people persuasion rock star specialist. So she will help you persuade just about anyone. All right. Welcome to the show, Karen.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, so this show is based on my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. And this year we have had just about every situation hit us globally. So, yes. And I'd like to start off with asking if you have a story of a time in your life, maybe when you used persuasion to help you go from a tough situation and get back on track quickly.
Well, I guess I have a story more of having hit bottom and then not using it. But now that I've done this work, now that I know what I would have done, this was a few years ago. I was talking with an aunt of mine, the last living relative that I had at that. My mom had gone and her other siblings. And, she was my aunt. She was my childless aunt. She'd been there my whole life. Mm-hmm. And she was always there taking pictures and, giving gifts and, but when something came into her head, it went out of her mouth. There was no filter. And she was elderly. She was past 90. And she had to live with a caregiver, and the caregiver was from another country. She was from Poland. And I was sitting with my aunt and her caregiver in her living room. And my aunt started on a rant about immigrants. Well, Jeannie is in the room. And I didn't know what to do. So I told her she was rude and I left. Now, unfortunately, I never got a chance to come back to her because she died before I learned the skills that I learned now in developing the book. But I developed what I hope I would have said to her, which would have been that, are you talking about, this is what I might have said. Are you talking about immigration because you love this country so much?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think that's probably would have worked. And then what I could have said is, what do you think about immigrants who work as hard as Jeannie does to keep you clean and well-fed? Do you think they should be allowed in this country? If I had done that, maybe she wouldn't have agreed with me. I have no idea. But at the very least, I would have repaired the relationship and I wouldn't have let it be broken.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, is one of the major problems that we're facing right now, is our relationships are getting broken by our political polarization. And, we're letting that happen because we don't know what else to do.
It's very true and so interesting. During tough times, you get to see who people really are. Dr. Wayne Dyer would say, if you squeeze an orange, you're going to get orange juice. So whatever's inside of a person tends to come out more when they're scared, frightened, when they're in a flight or fight situation. And so we're seeing a lot of people show up in different ways than even we're used to. And then obviously, like for your aunt, she was at that age where she may have been getting slight dementia or something where the filters are gone. And, I've had so many friends that literally were 80s and 90s, that I worked with in the community, and they became friends. We volunteered together to help our community and this and that. And we became friends. And I loved the part about the fact they didn't have filters, because I knew if I asked them something, they were going to tell me the whole truth and nothing but the truth, no matter if I liked it or not. And it was interesting because they didn't care about the good opinions of others, as well as trying to impress other people for approval. Like they put all that stuff down, and they were just real. And that was, sometimes they said things that came from a different generation that was like, oh, well, what was that? And there was that, but they were so real, and they just loved me and my family and other people, because it wasn't about who I had to show up as either. It was how I was being in the community work that I did with them, that we got attracted to each other and became really good friends. And so that's the beauty of it. So there's two sides of it, and that's the side of having proper, having proper etiquette and being kind to people and not rude. And then there's people being honest and loving and not having the filters of what we're supposed to be like and do and how we're supposed to show up every day. So that's really important. I loved all those people. I lost, just like you, I lost all my relatives, all my parents, grandparents, all in a short period of time. They all passed away. And I can recall wishing I had grandma or somebody to go to for advice. And I was like, oh, now I have to have all the advice for myself.
Yeah.
That was a really tough, it was like, what would grandma say? And darn it, she was right. She lived to be 103, and she went through the pandemic, the Spanish flu, the Great Depression, all these different things. And so for her, she'd tell me warnings and got to do this, you got to do that. And I was like, no, science is better than that. We are never going to have a problem like this Spanish flu. It's not going to happen ever. And well, grandma was right, darn it.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Yes. So I'd love to hear more about what's inside your book and some tips for people, right now that are trying to persuade, maybe they're trying to persuade a boss to let them stay home more, or some other business situation.
Well, so one of the major concepts is that you need to separate the person from the position they take on the issues and the values that they hold. Those are three separate parts. And too often we vilify the person for the position that they take that we don't agree with. Mm-hmm. And we reject them, like I did with my aunt. I mean, that wasn't quite fair. That was just one comment that she made. For me not to ever talk to her again, that was extreme. And, I see people all the time. And I talk about this in my newsletter that I've been working Mending Fractured Relationships.
I love that. Yeah.
And so when we separate those and we can start to say, oh, okay, that's a person I love, just like you talked about, the people you did work with, somebody that you really have enjoyed, but they take a position that you don't like. Mm-hmm. But if you can relate it to the value that it comes out of, we all share the same values, but we lose sight of that. Because we put different emphasis on different values. So if we can start to see the values that are underneath what they're saying, then we can start to have a commonality and really come together, I think.
Yes. And I think that's the beauty of being around people that have different opinions and talking openly about these things, being around different generational people culturally, being around a group of people that's from all over the place, diversity is so important. I remember I was a Waldorf teacher for a while. I have 6 kids, and in order to have them go free to these beautiful schools, I had, my option was either work 10 jobs or be a teacher there, and then they go free. And I loved the program was beautiful. I loved teaching and working with the kids, and so it was great. And one of the things that Rudolf Steiner, the person that created these Waldorf schools, one of the things he said was, go and spend time with those people that you are completely opposed to, whether it's a culture, a religion, a belief system, a political party, whatever it is, and see the people and be able to see their argument from their side and understand. So then you're able to communicate your beliefs better because you know where they're coming from.
Exactly right. But the problem that is happening is people get so upset by thinking they're not being heard that they react and they can't really listen. So what I give in my book is tools for how to hear what's underneath. You don't get as upset.
Yes, I love that. That's so important. And so how in the book, how do you suggest to people, maybe they're just trying to negotiate or persuade a loved one like you had with your aunt or a friend, and it's maybe they're not trying to persuade them on something political during this interesting time of year, but just a persuasion to do something, or maybe go out to dinner or go do something maybe they don't usually do. What suggestions do you have for that?
Well, I've developed a new system that's going to be in an upcoming newsletter, which has, it's 4 parts to it. First is ask. Ask questions. Find out what's important to the person. Don't just assume. The A is not for assume. The second one is listen. So you have to listen with new ears. Listen for what's underneath it. Because people say stuff, but they don't necessarily say what's really important, because we don't talk about the important things sometimes. So listen with new ears to try to see what's underneath it and what's important. And then affirm. Second A. Figure out what you agree with. There's going to be something you agree with there. You're not going to disagree with everything. So let's work from a position of strength. So agree with what you can. And then finally, do something that I call reframing. So reframing is taking what the person said and applying a different value to it. And one that's important to them, but moves them a little bit in the direction that you want to move them. So if you do that, I'm not guaranteeing it's going to be successful all the time, but it certainly helps maintain the relationship because you've now strengthened it by affirming and listening. And you've also gotten them to consider something else, at least briefly.
So reframing, could you give me an example of reframing?
So the story with my aunt was a reframe.
Okay.
So she was talking about immigration in terms of probably the country. And so that I call that the framework of belonging. So belonging to this country, right? And I reframed it when I said that about her caregiver, Jeannie, being a hard worker, that uses the framework of fairness. And that's a merit-based form of fairness where you earn the ability to belong there by working hard.
Yes. Okay. I got it. So it's kind of subtle. It seems like, how did you learn this? Is this something you studied and learned, or you just kind of picked it up, or?
Well, I first encountered it in a book by the gentleman by the name of Jonathan Haidt. He's a social psychologist at NYU. He wrote a book called The Righteous Mind. And I found it when I was studying for my degree in religion. And it's not what I expected to do when I was studying religion. But the book just changed the way I looked at the world. And I started seeing stuff that I hadn't seen before. And you hear a lot of people talking about that book. But what you don't hear is how they know how to use what's in there. And that's what I thought I could bring, because that's my life is looking at stuff and saying, how can I use this?
Yeah.
And so that's what my book is about. It's taking that theory that's a very popular psychological theory called moral foundations theory and saying, how does this apply to our world right now? And then how can we use it? And how can we make it practical?
Yes, because I mean, when I think of persuasion, I think of sales a lot, and how people teach persuasion classes for sales.
Right.
Quite often. And that's a different, or is that the same, or what would you categorize that in?
You can use this in sales. My first book was about marketing because that's been my career in marketing. And, you know, I talk about in my first book, which is called Marketing Landmines, I talk about how you can use the same technique in marketing and has been used. I have examples of ad campaigns that have used it very successfully, but nobody's identified it as that. And I have this way of looking at the world to say, oh, here's this theory and here's an example. And that's what that book is about.
Yeah. So what is the difference, would you say, between persuasion and negotiation?
Negotiation happens after you've already decided to work together on something. Persuasion is deciding to work together on something.
Okay, so in a relationship, first you have to date. Guys, are you listening to this? I'm trying to like put this into, you can't negotiate anything until you're dating first, at least. You got to ask them out. That's a good one. And that's really important because that's a distinction that not everyone knows, and especially salespeople. So when you think about it from that perspective, a lot of times you'll get people that are like, hey, you want to buy XYZ? And it's like, I don't even know you. What, you know, from LinkedIn is like the business dating site, and you get all these pickup lines every day. Hey, want to buy my product? Want to hire me? And I'm like, who are you? Because they haven't done the first step.
That's right.
Yes. So this is huge. This is so important. They totally forgot. And it's like, excuse me, I don't even know who you are. And
why do I want to listen to you at all?
Yes. So that's the piece that's really missing in sales and dating, and in a lot of areas that, you know, they don't teach this stuff in school.
Well, you know, if you look at Dale Carnegie's book, he says you should try to listen first and try to understand, but we forget it. You know, I mean, it's there, but it just seems so obvious that we just go right past it. Yes,
that is so true. And some of those classics are so important to read and review. Win Friends and Influence People, you know, Dale Carnegie. That's like the main book, and everything else is based on that. I think that's like his big winner book. And yes, so it's really important, even when you're a parent, especially when you get into the teen years, or you're with your older adults. I have 2 of my kids have moved back home because the dorm's closed and the college is closed and they're home. And as a mom, I'm enjoying this because I know it won't last forever. Babies is great, but you know, it's hard, and there's negotiations and there's persuasion, and there's a lot going on with families that have adult children that have had to move home. Sometimes adult children have had to move home because financially they lost a job, and maybe they have a child or something else. So now there's a couple generations in a small house, and they're trying to figure things out. So persuasion's a lot easier than fighting or trying to, you know, force something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, you know, if you can just, as you know, the system works, even if you're talking about adult children. And I have an adult son who's on the other end of the country, so I don't get to do that with my son. But unfortunately, he was supposed to get married last Saturday, but of course he postponed the wedding, which is really sad. Yeah. So another year. But anyway, but the system does work. I mean, you know, people love to be asked what's important to them, and they love to be listened to, and they love to be agreed with. I mean, what's bad about that?
Right. Yeah. So asking and listening, I think also is that other thing that you mentioned, that people forget how to listen, or maybe they didn't learn or they were listening for the test in schools where you're listening so you can have the right answer. But this is different because we're not looking for the right answer.
Right. We're looking to understand the other person, and not just understand what they've said, which is, usually when people talk about understanding, they talk about, well, the person, can you feed back what the other person said? What I'm really talking about is, can you understand what's underneath what they said? So what's really driving them? And when you do that, then people really feel heard above and beyond just the words. They'll go, well, if you just parrot back the words, they're like, well, you're just a parrot. But if you can say, is what you're talking about this? Go back to the example with my aunt. Is what you're talking about that you love our country? Mm-hmm. Which was the fundamental underneath value, I think. I don't have the opportunity to ask her anymore. I wish I did. But if I asked her that, and if I got it wrong, she would let me know. But even just doing that builds a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's so important. I mean, imagine if we didn't study history or culture or understand other people and where they're coming from. How can you work with people when you're not understanding their fundamental beliefs? Like, you studied religion, which I love and I think is so interesting, and that's really understanding people.
Right. And what surprised me when I was studying religion is, you see people, different groups of people using the Bible, and they use it in very different ways. And I didn't understand why. But actually, this theory helps me understand that people were picking and choosing the parts of the Bible to use by what their fundamental belief system is.
Yes.
They think that they're being true to the Bible. And as my Old Testament professor said, people can find anything they want in the Bible. They can prove any point they want. But what people are choosing is based on what they already believe.
Yeah.
That really helped me understand the source of the conflicts. And like I said, the book Jonathan Haidt's book, The Righteous Mind, was a huge eye opener to me. And I hope this book also opens people's eyes.
Yes, I think it's really funny. I remember I had a tenant that was actually a church. and it was interesting because the pastor and I would go back and forth a little bit on things sometimes. And he was like, but you're a woman, and a woman, there was this premise in that particular church that a woman really shouldn't work or own property. I don't know. But he didn't like that. And I said, well, have you looked into Ruth at all? And we got into that. And I said, because she was a businesswoman and she took care of her home and she did a lot. And you know what? She was highly, highly talked about in the Bible as a woman of character. And he was like, okay, you won. So it just depends on how you read it. And where it was coming from was they were very, I don't know, that was just a big belief was women stay home. And this is a very current situation, so it's a choice. I'm like, well, don't go to that church then if you're not going to stay home. And sometimes we don't have the option of staying home nowadays in our country, even if we wanted to. So
yeah. And, women are in a subordinate role, have been in a subordinate role for centuries, and only now are starting to get out of it. And people who are more conservative are more uncomfortable with that.
Mm-hmm. And, it's really interesting. I can recall as a little girl, I grew up, my grandparents raised me, one set of grandparents more than the others. And my grandmother, her friends were 70s and 80s, and they were all women. A lot of them were widows, or they were working with their husband. They came from different countries. So they all came from somewhere else. This is like Los Angeles, California area. And they all had these stories. One was from a concentration camp, and her family, she lost everyone as a child. Someone else took her in, and she had this beautiful life, but she had this living history. Another was from a country where a different ruler took over, and they escaped with like the clothes on their back, and her and her husband had to start over. And, so I heard these rich stories. Now, these women were very much in their feminine. They were very feminine, yet they ran businesses at a time when it was really questioned. They just didn't have a choice. And they told their stories of their ups and downs, like the concentration camp, all the things that happened in their life. And I'm this like 5-year-old little girl that's to be seen and not heard, but I was listening. And I remember thinking, wow, we're all going to have an adventure. And I wonder what mine's going to be. And so I always knew, hey, those ladies were with me my whole life. Do you know what I mean? It's just, they've been in my heart because of the way they just live their life and their truth. So
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. I didn't have a role model like that. And, it's amazing because I was the primary wage earner in my family for my husband and my son. And I really don't know where I got the courage to do that, but it must have been from the media or some other source. But there were role models on TV and stuff when I was growing up. I guess being of a certain age and seeing Gloria Steinem and people like that, I got the idea that I could do it, which was great because I did do it. I worked really hard and achieved I had a good career in some major corporations and contributed to helping a lot of products do well. And now I'm excited to apply those skills to help people do well.
Yes, that's so important. And there's a lot still in the work world as far as persuasion goes in business, especially for women, because there is a different pay scale still today. And, not for all women, but for still a huge majority of women have a harder time. And that's something that you could be the person that does the job better in many times or equal, and you're going to get the lower pay. And so that's something we still have to work on as a society. And persuasion is part of that, when they can see who you are and how you're showing up and what you contribute to your company. So that persuasion is the first step before negotiation. And maybe that's a big thing that might be missing.
Yeah, I think so. I just remember that, most of the department heads were men, and I didn't think about that at the time. But now, when you see a department head that's woman, it's noteworthy, it's great to see. But, they would get flack for being a department head, so it wasn't all, even from the women. Men have those attitudes too.
And what's really interesting is from my perspective, I have 3 kids of my own, 3 I fostered to adopt. So now there's 6 kids. They're all grown at this point, but raising 6 children, it was interesting because I did work. I started gift stores when I was 23. And before you know it, I had 5. I bought the buildings with the proceeds. I had a whole program to help at-risk youth that nobody would hire. They're emancipating from foster care at 18 and nobody wants to give them a job. And so I had a training program. I worked with the government, created a program with the Job Training Partnership Act. I had a blast. I had nannies actually that were Sunday school teachers that were our nannies. And I would have the sales ladies that had babies. They would come in and we'd have the nanny and the babies. My stores were 5,000 square feet. So we had a whole private area in the back that the people couldn't get to. And the park was across the parking lot in the back. And so I said, I can't pay you more than Nordstrom's or some of these fancy stores, but I can give you childcare and your baby's right here with you and flex time. And so I had the top salespeople and most of the people that work for me, I started at 23. Most of the women that work, and they were mostly women. We did have boys and girls that came through with the young adult programs and at-risk youth. But most of the sales ladies were women, yet they loved working there. And I had the stores for 14 years, and we still talk today. So there are ways to be creative and to be able to be present for your children. And especially now, you're able to work from home. There's flex time. There's different options that make it easier, but it does seem to still fall on the mom more than the dad, obviously. And so that is a situation. And that was my persuasion, because I was like, I don't have the money to pay top salespeople, but I have something better. I have nannies. And it worked.
That's great. That's great.
We had fun. And I was able to go play with my baby and all that while still running the stores. So it was good.
Well, I had my own challenge that I haven't talked about publicly, but I developed chronic fatigue syndrome over 20 years ago. And I had to stop working full time. And I was able to find a position that I could do consulting work for. I could work at home, and that way I could be there for when my son got home from school, and work part-time, and was still able, amazingly enough, to make enough money to support our family, which was wonderful. So that was a great period of time that I was able to be there for him. So, I found my solution to my own challenge. And I still deal with the residual effects of chronic fatigue, which is, one reason why I'm not working in a company anymore. Writing a book and talking to people, doing speeches and stuff, is I can create a schedule that works with my fatigue. So
yes, and that's important too, to design a work schedule around your terms. This period of time, our universal pause, pandemic, whatever you want to call it, this is a time where we get to reset, reinvent our life on our terms. In many ways, we've lost a job or had hours cut, and we have time to create a new business or do something different. It also, at least for me, it really helped me to see what matters most and prioritize differently than I did before the pandemic. Like having my two youngest home, I'm embracing every moment. I'm like, oh, this is like a big slumber party. This is great. We're doing all kinds of movies and fun things and doing the best we can, because it is hard to keep happy all the time, right? During a situation like this, especially for our young people. But for young people and everybody listening, I think the other thing that is really important with persuasion, and we're talking about women and working and this and that right now, is there's two different teams a lot of the times in the schools or in society, where you have women that are staying home, and then there's women that work, and they're literally they're at each other, like they're two different teams, and they're judging. There's so much judgment because nobody's listening. And if they're able to come together, gosh, there could be somebody to watch your child if you're stuck having to work or run your business that's home already. And then there's ways you can do different things that when you're not working that maybe they're not able to do. You could work together and we need to work together as a nation, as a world, as women, men and women, just being able to have those conversations and not debate about right and wrong. Like, this is the whole point of this, is it's not right or wrong. It's let's listen to each other.
And focus on the things that we share. We all share the same values. We have the same human values of belonging to a community, of respecting authority, of having sacred beliefs, of believing what's fair, and caring for each other. And if we focus on those, we can agree on all that. It's just that we each put different emphasis on it, and we get caught up with arguing about the emphasis that we're putting on it without realizing that that's what we're doing and that we're not paying attention to what we share.
Yes, it's so true. And I think in some ways, like for my neighborhood, I love the fact that we've all come together. There was a time when we first had this pandemic where, we were on lockdown for the 3 or 4 months where we are, and we couldn't get eggs or meat or certain vegetables even. It was ridiculous. You weren't able to get it at the grocery store. And so we found a farm that delivered and we'd have to buy in bulk. And so the whole neighborhood got together, and we still buy from this. It's organic. It's all this hell, it's like really, they show videos of the farm. You can go visit the farm. And so we all buy from the farm now, and we're so different. We're all different at different stages of life and this and that, but we all come together and make this purchase every couple months. We get everything we need and frozen vegetables and everything. And it was kind of cool because we got to know each other more than before our pandemic.
Yeah. Well, I just joined for this season, I joined a community supported agricultural CSA. So we go to the farm every week to pick up our vegetables. So tomorrow's our last pickup for the season because it ends on Thanksgiving. So just a little sad, but we got to, one of the great things about it is I got to experience the seasons to see what's fresh in that particular season. Because I got insulated by, I can always get frozen broccoli,
Yeah.
Well, it's not necessarily in season right now. That's not what we're getting.
Right. I mean, and I do have a freezer myself to stock up on some of the veggies, but it's the same thing. And we're so grateful. It's changed the way we even shop and eat, which is kind of cool. But more than that, we became friends and created relationships that maybe we wouldn't have had because we don't have as much in common or whatever. So that's been kind of cool.
So you formed a different type of community.
Yes. And it's like, we're not going back. We love this. This is so much nicer. It's, natural, and you just feel better about it. And, if somebody's having a short month, we work that out so that make sure everybody has everything they need. And that's pretty good.
Community is such an important value. I have a whole chapter on what to look for in a community and how you can set some boundaries on what makes a good community to support each other, because I think that's so important. We don't even think about it.
Yes.
My book is a lot about things that we don't think about, and I'm trying to surface them and help people see them, because when we see them, we can start to appreciate them and learn how to work with them.
Now, that sounds like a wonderful book for young adults to get started in before they have to hit the walls of all these difficulties in persuasion. I would think, like my college daughter who's studying psychology, I'm definitely going to get the book for her. I think she can use it as a good tool. And so that sounds really, something like they don't teach this in college even. It's so important.
No, there's a whole field of psychology called political psychology, which is what this is drawn from. So they are starting to teach it, but it's rare. It's not common. It's a new theory. It just was developed about 20 years ago. So this is, cutting edge psychology.
Nice. Yes. Yeah. She loved that. So very good. We will definitely get a copy of the book, and I'd love for you to share with the audience a way for them to get the book and connect with you more.
Great. Well, my website is persuadedon'tpreach.com with no apostrophe in the don't, persuadedon'tpreach.com. And in the website are links to the various places you can buy the book, links to my speaking, so you can listen to other podcasts that I've been on, and also links to resources, because I've used a lot of resources in developing the book. And there's a great video that I'd love for you to look at by Rob Willer, and also a link to my newsletter, which comes out every Monday, called Mending Fractured Relationships, where I tell stories of relationships that have been fractured by political polarization, people not talking together, and talk about how you can apply these principles in a real life example. And, it's not easy and it takes a lot of work, but I think if we practice together, then we can learn to do this and we can come together.
Yes, that's beautiful. All right. Well, we will check it out. Everybody listening, check out this new book, Persuade, Don't Preach. And we will be back after these messages. Stay tuned. All right. Thank you again for listening. If you are just tuning in, this is the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. And after such an interesting interview, one of the things that I did want to share with you is the topic of addictions. And, especially this last year, people have struggled with any type of addictions, alcohol, drugs, it could be food, it could be watching too much Netflix, I don't know. But there's some healthy things you can do in their place. And it is not an easy road. Sometimes you need a little help from friends, circle of friends. Join my Facebook group, which is Bootstraps and Bra Straps. It's a Facebook community that is completely free to join for additional support and anything you're working on where you're using the Boots formula based on my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. And also, my gift to you, I have a special gift to you as we're starting off, getting ready to get into this new year. My gift to you, protect yourself and your loved ones from the controlling, manipulative difficulties of abusive or addictive patterns. Learn how to defend against backsliding and help to reboot your addiction from one that controls you or a loved one to a healthy habit that blesses all. So get your 2-week email-based addiction defense course at www.sheilamac.com/defense. Also, if you want even more support with a group that will hold you accountable, hold you up when you need help and support, and also push you to your limits so that you can break free from any backsliding or any addictions this year or in this new year. So to get that, if you want more support, I do have a mastermind course that is specifically for breaking free from addictions. It is the Breaking Free from Addiction course. This is a live course where we meet once a week on a phone call, conference call. And with that, you get a small group and a lot of individualized attention. There's a little bit of homework and a lot of help to get you back on track and breaking free from any addiction that you may have. I have been leading these courses for quite some time now, and so I will be leading the course myself, and I look forward to having you or a loved one join that course. You can learn more about that at www.sheilamac.com. And now here is a portion of a chapter in my book that goes more into detail about using the Boots formula to help you break free from any addictions that you are dealing with this year. Take a listen. Dear friends, I had to share this message because I love you all the most. All right, so if you are tuning in or getting this share, this is a very important message and share for those going through the holidays or any time of the year when you or a loved one is working really hard to break free from an addiction. And so this is an excerpt from my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. And it's a serious discussion with some guidance on how to break free from addictions. And to get the entire book, you may go to www.sheilamac.com, and it is also available on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible. We also have a course, a small group support groups, courses that I run with people that are seeking to break free from addictions. So check out the site online to learn more. And here we go. Take a listen. The cycle. Addiction. Maggie grew up loved by her relatives and friends. Shortly after coming into this world, she was adopted. Her birth mother had addiction problems and got pregnant very young. Close relatives arranged Maggie's adoption by two loving parents who couldn't have children of their own. Maggie grew up in a beautiful environment. She was well cared for, went to top schools, and had private tutoring when she needed it.
She loved horseback riding, ice skating, and hours spent with her parents. They loved Maggie and gave her everything they possibly could. Then, toward the end of high school, Maggie's dad got sick and died. Maggie had received a full scholarship to college, but she deferred admission for a year so she could stay home and help her mom through the grieving process. She didn't feel like she could leave until her mom was settled and in a healthy place. Financially, they had to adjust. They sold the house. If you are just tuning in, this is the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. And today we are talking about real solutions to help you or someone you love who is facing addictions and looking to become addiction-free. So for the new year, we have a special course that I will be leading. It is a 1 month at a time, pay as you go, stop anytime you'd like. And it is a small mastermind group course. We keep it to a small group and we talk together about supporting each other through the breaking free from addiction process. That means holding each other accountable and supporting each other through the tough times and getting back on track quicker than ever. All right, so if you would like to join that class, go to sheilamack.com/courses/becoming-addiction-free, and I hope to see you there. We do have one available course day open for the addictions course, and that is on Monday evenings, 5 p.m. Pacific time. We meet for 1 hour each Monday of the month. Thank you again for tuning in. Another good way to get started on your journey to rebooting your business and personal life on your terms is to grab a copy of my latest book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. Also, keep in mind that most of my courses are on special New Year's discount. So they are more than a third off for this month. And if you enroll now, you get to continue the low discount price as long as you stay in the course for this entire year. All right, stay tuned. All right, this is the Sheila Mack Show. And if you or a loved one is seeking to break free from addictions, check out my new Mastermind Course Support Group program. It is for those seeking to finally break free. I have opened up a new time slot on Mondays from 5 to 6 p.m. Pacific time. This is a live course. And just to share more about my courses, each of my courses that I am offering are connected to my Boots formula. They are not like the other programs in many ways. One of the things is it is a closer, small group coaching package course because each course is tailored and unique to those who join. I've helped thousands of clients over the years to overcome tough situations, including addictions that seem impossible to overcome, and my own personal rock bottom situations have helped me learn to pave the road to help others get back on track quickly and easily using the Boots formula. The secret is connecting a course, accountability group, and your business to your personal rock-solid reasons for rebuilding. This is not a one-size-fits-all automated course. It's not that at all. It is actually an individualized course where I get to know you and help you on each step of the process. How the courses work. When you sign up for a course, first thing you do is watch the introduction to the Boots formula, and you will receive a self-reflection survey to complete based on the course you choose. That helps me to get to know who will be in each small group. This survey is your homework, and it is also truly your heart work and will help set the foundation for your weekly course meeting. You will get new homework each week. It doesn't take long to do, but it really is the heart work of the course, and it helps to individualize how the course goes for each small group. The courses are monthly, and it is highly suggested that you commit to a minimum of 3 to 6 months and 1 year really for best results. During the first few months of working with my team and I, you will uncover the triggers and automatic responses that have been holding you trapped in your situation. And you'll also learn how to start to immediately apply the Boots formula to your daily life. This is what makes the courses individualized for you. Literally, you are beginning to not only overcome a tough situation like overcoming addictive patterns, but you're actually starting to create an entire lifestyle design only that truly serves you in your career, relationships, family life, home, and community. So the self-work comes first, and that's the first part of our course, is getting through the addiction, doing the self-work. You will start to enjoy the results as you continue your reboot process, taking the course that best addresses your particular situation. We have support groups for people that are going through a divorce, for parents, for people that are getting through grieving the loss of a loved one. So there's quite a few courses, and they all use the Boots formula and a similar process to help you get back on track, but each group is focusing on the one tough situation that tends to be your trigger or toughest situation that you're facing right now. So no matter which course you're taking or what tough situation that you are coming back from, it is the foundation that this will bring you a solid ground. This will give you a solid ground foundation to overcome any surprises or triggers that will come your way over this next time, whether you take the 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year of courses. And this course will help you do the sacred self-work that will build your muscles in all areas of your life. So for a limited time, my team and I have opened up the schedule to allow for additional courses at the New Year's special discounted rate. You'll be saving 75% off the normal pricing when you sign up, and this is only for a limited time. So finally achieve the outcomes and goals you want and that you struggle to get rid of every year. This could be the year. These courses bring your rebooting results and connect you to the top resources to put your lifestyle design visions into action, helping you to create business, relationships, and life on your terms. If you're ready to take the next step, go to SheilaMac.com today. All right, so if you are looking to break free from addiction, I have a new course that is starting up for the new year. It is Mondays, 5 to 6 p.m. Pacific time. It is for a small group, so there are a few openings left. Sign up today. This is a way for you to work with myself and my team and a small group to help you become addiction-free this year. And just to give you a little idea of how the courses work, these are unlike many of the other programs out there. They're not recorded programs. It's actually more like a small group coaching package where myself and my team are on the call with you. It's mostly me on the calls, and we go through step-by-step supporting each other and getting you through the Boots formula. So the first thing you do is sign up for your course. Then you watch the introduction to the Boots formula, and you will receive a self-reflection survey each week. When you complete this is your homework. It is truly your heart work and will help you set the foundation for each weekly course meeting. It also gets sent back to me for personal review, so I'm really connected with what you need. So the course is actually individualized to those in that small group course, and this helps you to get back on track quickly. The courses are monthly, and it is highly suggested that you commit to a minimum of 3 to 6 months, although 1 year gives you the best results, especially if you are taking the addiction-free course. That is something that really helps to keep you on track and avoid triggers that happen throughout the year. And there are quite a few other courses. So if you go to SheilaMac.com, you can see we have courses for parenting, for those that are now caring for elders. We have courses for those that are getting through, maybe going through the loss of a loved one and how to deal with that. And that includes, I have a group that's just dealing with maybe losing a loved one and dealing with trusts and a whole bunch of finding themselves in legal situations with relatives, which is never fun. So there's all kinds of courses, grief recovery, there's parenting courses, and they all use the same formula, but they focus on your specific tough situation at this time in your life. And this is how it works really. As we go through and we start working, we immediately begin to apply the Boots formula to your daily life. That's what makes the course individualized. You're literally beginning to not only overcome your individualized tough situation, you're actually starting to create an entire lifestyle design, one that truly serves you in your career, in your relationships, your family life, your home life, and in the community that you serve. So you will start to notice the results slowly showing up within the first month and going forward. And you will start to enjoy these results as you continue your reboot process, taking the course that best addresses your particular situation, no matter which course you're taking or what tough situation you're coming back from. This is the foundation that will bring you a solid ground to overcome any surprises or triggers that come your way. This course will help you do the sacred self-work that will build your muscles in all areas of life. Now, for a limited time, my team and I have opened up the schedule to allow for additional courses at the New Year's special discounted rate, and you'll be saving 75% off the normal pricing when you sign up. Now, the reason I'm doing this, obviously, this has been an interesting time that we're all rebooting from 2020 and still recovering from COVID and all those situations. So I want to make sure to serve as many people as possible and help us all connect, stay together, and get back on track. These courses bring your rebooting results and connection. You get the top resources that I can connect you with, and you get quite a few of those, as well as special guests to help put your lifestyle design, your visions, into action as you help each other in the small group, and you actually are creating the business, the relationships, and the life you desire on your terms, with me as your guide. So get ready, and if you're ready to take that next step, go to SheilaMac.com today. So I have a special gift today for you. If you are looking to reboot your career, or a young adult or an adult that is looking to go back to college or just start out in college, I have some chapters devoted just to these topics on the Bootstraps and Bra Straps book. It's also available on Audible. And in the book, you will learn more. And in the book, there are some free gifts, activities, and workshops and tips to help you. There's also a chapter on financial freedom and how to get out of debt. So if you do have college debt from going to school years ago, I have some tips on how to get out of debt quickly. So with that, I do have some homework for you. Go ahead and grab a copy of my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. It is now available on Audible, Amazon, and Kindle, as well as at www.SheilaMac.com, and get your free Boots meditation gift for the holiday season at SheilaMac.com/Boots meditation. Thanks for listening. At its finest, and I'm giving you some homework. Grab a copy of my latest book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. That's right. If life has knocked you down, get ready to pick yourself back up and give